Recording. If anyone has a question about the recording or doesn't want to be recorded, let me know, and we don't have to post it. Generally, we like to post them so that people can see them. If you have a problem, let me know, and we'll try to figure out another solution. I'm going to go to speaker view. All right, so actually, maybe Rachel, I see Rachel joined us. Hi, Rachel. Maybe you want to read these beginning of our Gemara for us.
Sure. From Amarava?
Yeah.
Amarava, Miresh, Havaka Kashili, Hadatanya, Kedera Shabishel Basar, Lo Yevashel Bachalav, Ve'im Bishel, Benotin Ta'am. So Rava said, at first I found it difficult, that which was taught in a baraita, a pot in which one cooked meat, one should not cook milk. And if one did, then it has been imbued with flavor.
Any other ideas on those two words, Benotin Tam?
I think its status is determined by whether or not it gave flavor.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's more correct.
Okay.
In other words, we will determine its permissibility by the check, by the how do you say the lipid test, what's it called, whatever, by the test known as Noten Tam.
So you only know if it's treif after you've tasted it. Basically.
Yeah, it's a wonderful world. You can try everything.
That's his whole problem.
Well, that's exactly Rava's problem. Exactly. How can you taste these things? They're forbidden. Perhaps they're suffix forbidden. So go on.
The Baraita continues, Truma lo yevashel b'chulin ve'im bishel b'notin ta'am. So if you have a pot in which you've cooked truma, you shouldn't cook chulin. And if you do, then I like the way that, who was it who worded it just now? It is only forbidden.
Its status is determined.
Its status is determined if it has the flavor of chulin. Of truma.
Right.
Bishlama truma ta'im la.
Well, let me just add. Yeah, in other words, what's the result as opposed to the action? It's not like it's awful to do such a thing, but it is, it is awful if it results in notain tam. Okay, that's all.
Wait, Rav Lennis, can I challenge you on that a little bit? I mean, it's awful, but it may not be that the result might not be bad unless it's notain tam, right? It still might be an awful thing to do.
Wait, you think it is an awful thing to do?
Yeah. Lo yevashel, right? Kedera should be shel babasar. Lo yevashel babachalav. Like, don't do it. It's the bad thing. If you did it, all right, there's like a way, like you didn't necessarily destroy the world, or even the food necessarily, but it's still a bad thing to do.
And it's not a negligible act in your mind? It's
no.
How would you classify it?
I would classify it as a bad act, but once it's done, and therefore now we have to worry about, is the food okay? Not if you did a good or bad act anymore.
All right,
And in that vein, we can say we sort of see a source here for having separate kelim, right? We have a source here to have separate kelim. Even if you say, well, why do I need separate kelim? I'll just wait 24 hours. If you guys are familiar with that idea, that if you wait 24 hours, it's like effectively par b'di'evet. But that's only b'di'evet. L'chatchila, you have to have separate dishes. And
sorry.
Yeah, and therefore, lo yibashel, as Joel said, you shouldn't use this pot for the wrong thing. Now,
unless
you're Kohen.
Basar means in the last 24 hours. I'm not sure.
You're right. Actually, yeah, I take your point, actually, because if it would be more than 24 hours, this is not a discussion, really. The Gemara is not interested in this question, but you're right. If it would be more than 24 hours, then you wouldn't be in Noten Tam. It must be within 24 hours, actually. because that would be the only way
Oh,
that there could possibly be a flavor of the milk. But these are things that are outside of our awareness at the moment when we're learning this Gemara. We didn't yet discuss Noten Tam with Gam and that topic.
The question, I'm a little puzzled though by the comparison between the Basar Chalav and the Hullin and Truma. Basar Chalav, it would be a discernible difference. You can taste the milk within the meat or the meat within the milk. Truma and Hullin could be the exact same meat. It's just one was Mukdash Lakon Truma.
Well, it's probably grain. It's probably grain, but right, it could be the exact same grain. So then you have a question. Right, so it has to be a case. What case must it be, therefore, to make sense? It must be a case where it was two different kinds of grain. One was like barley and one was wheat. And you could just tell the difference. One was oats and one was wheat. You'd have to say that, right? Otherwise, what would Noten Tam be? So wait, we've clarified two very important points. One is, it must be, I mean, based on outside knowledge, we can say there's probably a case where the pot is it's freshly used or within a reasonable amount of time, although the Gemara is not talking about that. And the second point is that if it's truma, it has to be min b'she'eno mino. But these are things that we're going to discuss later. At the moment, the Gemara didn't, it doesn't say anything about min b'she'eno mino, does it? Just says truma. It sounds like, but we sort of have to say that.
Yeah, Joel is correct. But but to tighten the idea of not a good act, is that it's actually, if you know what you're dealing with, that it's a small amount of isur and it's a large amount of heter, and by doing so you void vatel, you're voiding the isur. That's the problem of lo yivatel isur l'chatchila. We don't do that. In other words, after the fact is after the fact, but we cannot, with intention, with kavana, try to get rid of isur such a way. This is a drabanan, and it probably comes from being prudent and being smart, but it has really taken upon itself a very strong mechanism in itself.
Although both of these cases are not isur. Both of these cases technically are not isur because the milk is not isur yet. And if I cook it in enough meat, then I never created any isur. So it never went to a stage of isur. And also the truma and the kulin are not isurim. In fact, I might even propose that if you're a kohen, you might be able to, why would a kohen not be able, who kohen is tahor, why would he be not able to cook kulin in his truma? I think there might be, you're not supposed to do that for other reasons, I think. It's not
okay.
Anyway,
all right. I'm convinced by everyone. I'm just going to say what I said right now is the Ravan and it's the Ritva. But what you're saying makes absolute sense.
Okay. So that's the thing. He's got a taste but no tentam. And now Rava has a problem with this. So Rachel, you're in the middle. Rava has a problem. Bishlama.
Bishlama truma ta'im la kohen. Right. I don't have a problem with the truma case because a kohen can taste it. Right. Neither truma nor chulin are forbidden for a kohen. He'll eat it if he can taste the chulin mixed in. If he can taste the truma mixed in with the chulin. And like you said, we have to assume this is min shebe'eno mino. Then it's forbidden for a non-kohen, and if not, then others can eat it. Ela basar b'chalav, man ta'im le. But in the case of basar b'chalav, who's going to taste it, right? If you can taste both of them, it's forbidden. Hashda de amar Rabbi Yochanan, samchinan akfela arma'a, hachanami samchinan akfela arma'a. Now that Rabbi Yochanan has said we can rely on non-Jewish expert cooks, in this case, we can also rely on non-Jewish expert cooks.
And in other words, we thought maybe we couldn't rely. Our presumption was that we couldn't use a Gentile, and therefore a Gentile will be, of course, permitted to eat milk and meat. But we presumed that we couldn't use such a person because his testimony would be invalid. And Rav Yochanan said you could use him, so it must be that that's the explanation of our Mishnah. Now,
Let's use a technical term, right? The non-Jew is the posek here, and it's not so much of but okay, if it's not the posek, so you say it's edut, right? But so what would be that? No, it's not really edut. It's gigui milta. It's a revelation of something which just happens to be. There is no time. He's not deciding there's no time, even though that leads to, in a sense, a psak. He's just saying, look, there's no time. Would you agree with that formulation, Nathan?
I mean, if you're asking the question, how can we rely on a goy? He's not a valid witness,
Right.
And you're saying it's not really witnessing here. He's just a litmus test. He's just
it's not ages. It's right. It's
revealing.
Just, right. And an expert's even better, right? An expert's even better.
Well, this is the question.
You're asking about his expertise. You're not asking, is it forbidden or is it permitted? You're asking, can you taste the butter on this steak?
Wait, Yavni wants to ask something.
I think it was the Tosfot who said that like the reason why it matters that it be a cook, Davka, is because if it were some random guy, we don't trust them inherently, but because he has an incentive such that if he told us, oh no, I can't taste the butter in this, then we tasted it and we tasted the butter, we wouldn't think he was a good cook anymore, and then he would get a bad name as a cook. And that's
where do you know that from? Where are you getting that from?
That's in the Tosfos.
So you want to show us that Tosfos? Yavni?
Yeah, sorry, I lost the connection there for a moment. Hang on. סמכינן הכפילה, אף על גב דעובד כוכבים הוא, כיוון דכפילה הוא לא משקר, שלא יפסיד אומנותו. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah. In other words, he doesn't want to lose his reputation.
His reputation for his trade because he's even though he's yeah.
Now this is an interesting question because what is the nature of the psul of a goy, of a Gentile? Is the nature of that psul that we're just worried that he's going to lie to us? Anybody could be a liar. Everybody, lots of people, like he's a misachek bakubia, a person who is a gambler, could also perhaps lie. Is that the reason why he's psul, or is the psul more essential to him being a Gentile? In other words, the most honest Gentile in the world, maybe you might say. In other words, is it that we're assuming that Gentiles are dishonest, or is that no, Gentiles may be honest, maybe dishonest? But no matter what, but anyway, we just have a psul. Just happens to be that we can't accept Gentiles in our court of law. So Tosfos seemed to say almost like a shocking statement that I would have thought that not knowing too much, I would have thought a Gentile just happens to be that we don't accept them. They're maybe we're not trying to impute, say anything bad about their character and their proclivities about honesty. Just happens that in our system we accept only Jews, and then maybe in their system they accept only Gentiles, and and peace for everyone. And it's also saying, almost like he's saying, no, the whole reason that we don't trust them, or am I wrong? Is this, in other words, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're not talking about court of law here. We're talking about Gilui Milta, just revealing something.
Or
Isaac had a point here.
Yeah.
That you're writing out. I'm sorry. Isaac Collins.
Lexi and I were having a back and forth about the question of what can you tell the chef, and so Rashi take is that you can't actually tell the chef, like, I need to know this because I need to know whether or not I can eat it, right? You just ask them, and then Joel is also coming in and saying, like, exactly how much do you tell them? Can you say, like, does the steak taste like butter, or can you just say, like, what does the steak taste like?
So read that Rashi for us. L'tamei kefela. Want to read that, Rashi? Let's get all in on the conversation here.
Yeah.
Because this is basically, I think there's a machlokas here between Rashi and Tosfot.
I mean, I think you can maybe bring them together, but okay, let's see. Nechtomo ved kochavim. So this is a goy, an idolater. Ash mu'inan de mutar lismoch alav lefi tom'o v'lo yodi'uhu shetzorichin lo lidvar isur v'heter. Okay, and so we learned that it's permissible to rely upon him according to his like innocence or simplicity, question mark on what exactly that means, and you don't tell him or you don't inform him that you need him implied to tell you what it tastes like for the purpose or related to something that's Isur v'heter.
So what do you tell him? So what do you tell him?
I think that's a good question. So you say what either you can say, and I'm not decided. So the possibilities are you could say, does the steak taste like butter? Or here's a steak. What is it? Or like, here's some food. What does it taste like to you? What's in it?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, I
asking-
think part of the question is like, does Rashi think that the reason we need an expert, if this is a machloket between him and Tosfot, does he think the reason we need an expert is not because like their reputation depends on it, but because only like a Gentile baker would be able to like be given no instruction and say, what does this taste like? And they'd be like, oh, I detect hints of butter. Or is it that like they'll have a more refined palate, but you're still allowed to tell them, oh, does the steak taste like butter? You don't have to give it to them and just ask them what the flavor profile is.
You're asking, why does, according to Rashi, why do we need particularly a cook, nachtom? Why not any Gentile? If he's just telling, you're saying because of his expert ability to discern tastes. And Tosfos is saying we need his expertise. We need his expertise because not only, I presumably Tosfos could agree to that, but he's adding another thing that he also needs to be worried about lying to us. But the assumption is that Tosfos is talking about a case where we do inform him that it's an Isser. I mean, why would he lie to us if he doesn't know that it matters to us? He just to play pranks? I mean, he's not a prankster. The only reason he would lie to us maybe is to ruin our religion, Wait, Noam,
Well,
what do you want to say?
Yeah, I think there might be a question of whether the Gemara means dafka kfela or whether it's more lav dafka. And I think there might be a way to merge the Tosfot and the Rashi here. If you have a non-Jewish chef, then we can go with Tosfot and you can say, you can give them all of the information. This is exactly why I'm asking you, et cetera, and you can rely on the fact that the non-Jewish cook is actually going to tell you the truth because the non-Jewish cook doesn't want his professional integrity to be on the line, right? So the question is, all right, does that mean we can only give this dish to a kfela, or can we do it to any non-Jew? And I think what Rashi might be coming to add here is that if it is a non-Jew who is not a kfela, then you can't tell them anything, and they have to be Masiach Lefi Tumo.
But he says nachtom, which is the baker, which is like dafka, I think his translation of kfela.
For sure, but I am trying to. I think that is how he's interpreting kfela. But I think that you then have to ask Rashi what happens if it's not a kfela, because I don't think this Gemara is saying that it only has to be kfela, and it could just be that's the normal usage of how you would imagine a situation.
Well, I don't.
In other words, I think what Noam is saying, if you go to a normal guy and say, please taste this, he'll say, well, why do you want me to taste this? If you go to a nachtom, he may say, oh yeah, of course, I taste food all the time. That's I always tell people whether their cholent was made well or not. That's my it's just the normal case. That's just the normal case is what Noah says. But in Hachanami, if I would ask another person and somehow he would, but I want to say another thing, which is that normally we have the concept of Masiach Lefi Tumo. When I hear those words, I think about like mattering a woman whose husband died, and we hear two Gentiles discussing that they know this man died. And then in such a case, we can rely on those Gentiles because they're just having a conversation. Oh yeah, I know that, Moshe died. And, wasn't that crazy how he died? And he says, yeah, it's crazy how he died. And then we overheard that. We can accept that testimony because we just assume that they were no reason to deceive us. They were just talking among themselves. That's normal Masiach Lefi Tumo. As we're trying to get right. And I guess here, if we would apply that here, what would the case be? The case would be a little bit different. The case would be, here's some food. Notice I'm going back to my question about what do we tell him? Maybe we just tell him, here's some food. Would you like some? And he says, gee, your meatballs taste like cheese. How did that happen? And he said, oh yeah, I guess I must have used a dirty pot. In other words, we don't even, maybe Rashi say we can't even ask him what to do. Just let him tell us something.
I feel like from the fact that it says, like, you can't say that we're, like, somchin alav for Isser v'heter, that implies to me that you can do a little more than literally just give them this food and be like, have some meatballs. I'm not saying anything else. Because, like, the fact that he dafka said we can't tell him we're relying on this for Isser v'heter, seems like we can tell him, like, something else, just not precisely what this is.
Yeah, I agree with. I think you're right, but I'm really just pointing out that Rashi is pushing the concept of Masiach Lefi Tumo a little bit further than we normally would see it. In other words, he's pushing it a little bit more. It would be as though I would ask the guy, "Do you know anything about Moshe?" He said, "Oh yeah, he died." I say, "Oh, okay, thanks." That maybe would be allowed according to Rashi because that's considered Masiach Lefi Tumo as long as we don't tell him why we want to know Moshe is alive or dead. Right? Eliezer, you want to say
that case?
Eliezer. It's Eliezer.
Eliezer, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think both Rashi and Tosfot are anxious about asking the non-Jew, and it's almost like, or the Oved Kochavim, and it's almost like in order to create a case of Masiach Lefi Tumo, Rashi says you have to omit those details without really explaining what would be a realistic case where that could happen. But what Tosfot then adds essentially is, actually, you don't need to omit those details because if you have a person who's also worried about his career, then basically you don't need to add anything to Rabbi Yochanan's statement. It's already embedded within the category.
I agree with you. That's a beautiful. You said that beautifully. But let's go even further and say, actually, Tosfos is inventing a new concept. We have the concept of Masiach Lefi Tumo. Tosfos is not really talking about Masiach Lefi Tumo. He's inventing a new concept, which is kind of like Anan Sahadi. In other words, we know we are saying that this guy is not going to lie, even though he knows the case, even though it's not Masiach Lefi Tumo, since he's worried about his reputation. And it reminds one of Rav Moshe and the milk, and he allowing non-Jewish milk to be considered Chalav Yisrael because he says nobody would trick. Because they would get fined so bigly they would lose their business from the FDA. So he says, therefore, we can testify. It's sort of from this Tosfos. It's almost from this Tosfos. Tosfos is saying, we know that this guy is not lying, based on not because of a new concept, not because of Masiach Lefi Tumo, because of this whole other concept of worried about your reputation. There's a man with a beard there is asking a question.
Yeah. So first of all, just want to say when that psak many years ago became famous in Rav Moshe, my wife Cheryl, my chavruta here Cheryl, summed it up to a group of Balabatim by saying, we don't agree necessarily with America's foreign policy, but their dairy policy is 100% fine. We're somech on the dairy policy. But the other thing I want to say is, as we're moving away from this, or we'll move away from this particular part, and we'll see that in the halacha, as we get into, when we do poskim, that basically, and to me, it's always, I have to say now, just in case I'm not there for that year, it's a sad day for me that this notion of relying on the kafela, whether the kafela is a regular non-Jew or whether it's the Tosfot evocation of expanding the concept. Now, well, pushing the concept in the direction of saying that it's a person who doesn't want to risk his reputation, and that we've lost that in general practice. it's a very sad day. Here we have a way in which we could cooperate, and that you can be somech on someone, and sometimes being somech on someone is a wonderful way of cooperation. So it was a sad day. But I've had these shilas, and when I just became a rav, I had a shilah in the middle of the night from a camp in Wisconsin, which they had about 300 kids ready to have lunch, and they discovered exactly that problem. And they had the cook called me up because he had once learned with me, and the cook called up and about the butter in the food, and he asked me, and I said, "Did you ask someone?" And he asked a very fine online cook, but who knew nothing about Yiddishkeit, had just joined the day before, who said, "No, I don't. Yeah, it's fine. I don't touch anything." And he was pushed. "Yeah, I don't touch anything. I don't see anything dairy." And I paskined and that they should feed 300 hungry kids. But later on, I said, and I spoke with Rabbi Vadia, that's how he paskins. Sorach, yesh sorach. You can go back to the Rambam, and you can go back to this discussion. And he still can be
actually rely on.
But he said the shat sorach. But that's kind of a joke too, because it's always a shat sorach when you're asking this question. It's not like it's not a shat sorach. Oh, yeah, I'm done. I'm sorry.
In other words, what Rabbi Landis is saying, I think, is that maybe in later poskim we're going to say we don't rely on a goy in any circumstance, but
right.
but Rabbi Vadi is saying the Sephardim in general rely on a kefela in a makom tzarach. So we're saying, okay, that's interesting.
What's the shat tzara? What was the term you used at the end?
Shat tzorach, a time of need.
Is there any chance that there is actually any suspicion about the ability to taste the 1/60th bichlal? In some ways, I feel like it can't be, because the Kohen we trust for sure, and the Kfela we trust because Rabbi Yochanan says it's okay.
I think what you're saying is it's like a low bar. You're saying you're kind of saying it's like a low bar. Like, who's going to notice some tiny bit of milk there?
Yeah. Whether there's sort of if Rabbi Yochanan hadn't said it, then we would be anxious about it, even if you couldn't taste it.
Okay.
Well,
I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Unless
Rav Yochanan only added to us the idea that he explained to us the statement. We had this statement, which we were perplexed by, or at least Rava was perplexed by, that how it's benoten tam. And he's like, very nice to say benoten tam, but I can't taste it. So it's useless to me. You've come up with a useless way of testing. And Rav Yochanan says, no, I have a way. We'll use a Gentile. What?
Is it possible that Rava is actually anxious about whether the level of Isur that we want to maintain is tasteable?
In other words, maybe he just doesn't like the whole notion of noten tam, of that being the criteria, because it's so nebulous. One person might taste it, one person might
No,
not.
the Rava goes by noten tam in a lot of places.
What?
There's a lot of other places in the Gemara though where Rava seems chill with noten tam. So I don't think that's it. Like, we see other sugyo where he's fine with the concept of that being a measurement. It's just so provided we see other cases where he talks about it, it seems like here it's dafka the question, and especially when he contrasts it with the Kohen, where there his question isn't could the Kohen taste it? It's like he thinks Kohen can taste it. It's just who'd be permitted to taste this other one.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think there's ever a place in the Gemara where they say explicitly only a nachtom can taste it, only certain experts can taste it. In fact, you could learn this Gemara when it says nachtom. That's just the normal person you would ask. Rama Kafeli. You wouldn't go up to just a random Gentile and ask them to taste your food. You'd ask a cook. That's who you would ask. So not because of his expertise at all, just because of course, everybody knows that you can taste things. Everybody can taste it because we're not requiring any expertise. And the Gemara seems to be very comfortable with the idea that somehow we can taste 1 in 60th, and maybe everybody can. Actually, at 1 in 60th, we can no longer taste it. But at 1 in 50, we could taste. Everybody would say we could taste it.
I don't know.
It's a little bit
would have thought
dubious, but
sorry, I would have thought the Gemara is saying that a normal person wouldn't be able to taste it, so that's why you dafka ask a cook. That's why you dafka ask a professional.
the Gemara doesn't say that.
That's what Rav Yochanan's saying, and that's both where Tosfos and Rashi.
We don't know. No, all the Gemara says is use a non-Jewish chef. We don't know why. We can, it's anthropomorphic. We don't know why we can apply reasons to why the Gemara said a chef. It might be because of his reputation. It might be because of his expertise. And the third possibility is it might be Rashi, it might be because he'll be the fit tumo because he won't be suspicious while you're asking him. And a fourth possibility is that it's just the normal circumstance of what a normal person would do. In other words, the Rishonim can give reasons for why the Gemara said nachal. There are multiple possibilities. And nowhere, I don't think in the Gemara does it say we actually need an expert to do this testing for us. Just uses this case. It's just, and we can extrapolate that from, and Rishonim do. But the Gemara, in isolation, doesn't say why we need a aroma kafela. And I have another question, actually, which is I think a very hard question, which is when we say noten tam, is that just a way to see if there's isser here, or is the tam itself what causes the isser to be there? In other words, is tam a litmus test of whether there's isser here, or is the tam itself essentially what constitutes the isser? It's a kind of a deep question, and I don't think there's an answer to it. But in other words, you could say that all the Torah cares about is tam. If it tastes like isser, then it's usser. That would be one approach, to say all it cares about is tam, and if somehow you could mask the flavor, theoretically it would be mutter. Or you could say, no, all the Torah cares about is mamashut. It doesn't want you to eat an actual piece of isser, and how do we know if it's not batel? If it's not batel, if you can taste it. It's just like a way of seeing if it's there. But the Torah is not concerned with tam per se, it's concerned with the mamashut.
What are you going to do with tam kicker?
Well, that's exactly the point of tam kicker, maybe. Tam kicker might mean that the only reason that tam is aser is because it becomes, once it's tasted, it becomes an ikar, it becomes like mamashut, or we treat it like mamashut. I mean, you're right. Then tam becomes mamashut, and then my whole distinction falls away. You're right. No, I agree with you. It's a good kasha on me, but I'm just saying this. Maybe there's no distinction. It's a false dichotomy. But it seems to me you could view that the tam as a way of discovering whether there's isser there, or you could say the tam is the isser. And I guess tam ki ikr sort of says the tam is the isser. But does it work the other way around? If I mask the flavor, does it all of a sudden become mutter? I've got, I got a lot of pork here, but you can't taste it. Is it mutter?
Well, it's not, as in it's mutter b'diavad. For one, there's the whole idea of we can't we're not allowed to do this lichatchila. I can't lichatchila say I'm going to add a little bit of pork knowing that I won't be able to actually recognize it in all of this. We're still not allowed to mevatel something lichatchila. And also we have all the stuff about tam movalam masho. It seems pretty clear that we care about both. And also we have means we know but mashahu and stuff like that. It just have benotein tam is our easiest way of recognizing whether there's a substantive enough amount of an isser that it's recognizable in something, whether we're getting any hana from it when we eat this, which is also how we get noten tam l'shevach versus noten tam l'gam, right? Am I
right?
benefiting?
I'm saying exactly. I think there's all these different ideas are going back and forth. On the one hand, we're worried about are we getting hana'ah from it? Maybe the whole Torah is worried that we're getting hana'ah from it, or is the Torah worried that we actually are having the thing in our bodies, whether or not there's hana'ah? And the whole idea, okay. Anyway, these are just thoughts that I had. Let's continue on in the Gemara. Actually, this is an important statement. The next piece is very important. Maybe Noam wants to read it?
Sure. Did we finish the Bishlama piece, or that's where we are?
That's I think we said Hachanami Samchinan Arama Kafela.
Okay.
And that's the end of that topic. And now, well, let me just summarize one more thing, just to note, because we're going to see it in the post scheme that it's not that we can also say that there's a machlokus Rashi and Tosfos. One says you can let him know, and one says you can't let him know. You can let him know as long as he has his reputation on the line. And Rashi says no, he should be lefi tumo. And I even saw one of the places in the halacha says a very strange thing, that somehow you could have lefi tumo and he's worried about his reputation. You need both of those things, which seems to me, Joel's agreeing with me, that there's such a place like that.
I think it's the Rashba, but I have to look again. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But,
and
take a look.
so, but it doesn't make sense, right? Because how could it be? How could you have a case where he's doesn't know that it's important? Unless you want to say lefi tumo just means that we're asking him, we're not telling him that it's for Isser Heter. We're just asking him, do you taste this? So, but then it's not. Then that's still lefi tumo, and his reputation is on the line, because if you go to another guy and says you do taste the milk, afterward we come and taste it. By the way, all right. Anyway, all right. So you can have both of those requirements. That is lefi tumo, and also his reputation is on the line. All right. So go ahead, Noam.
Amar Rava, Amor Rabbanan B'tama, Ve'amor Rabbanan B'kfela, Ve'amor Rabbanan B'shishim. So Rava said that the rabbis sort of established three different tests for determining whether something is batel or not. We can do it by tasting it, we can do it by giving it to a non-Jewish chef, and we can do it by batel b'shishim. Hilkach, min b'sheino mino dehetera b'tama. So therefore, when you have a case of
we're going to go through those. Let me just interrupt you for a second. We're going to go through those three statements and say when they each apply.
Right. So when you have one type of food mixed in with another type of food, and both of those foods together are permitted, then you can use the tasting method. So the easiest example of that is Truma and Hullin and Kohen can go taste it because it's hetera for him. De'isura bikfela. So when you have two different types of foods, but when they're mixed together, it's prohibited. You bring it to a non-Jewish chef, and he'll tell you whether there's tam or not. That's the second case. Umin bimino deleka lemekam atama. And then the third category is when it's two foods that are the same, that they're the same type, so that you can't tell the difference between them. Inami min b'she'eno mino di'isura beleka kfela, or when it is a case of min b'she'eno mino, so types of foods that don't taste the same, and when they're together, they're prohibited, but there's no kfela present. So in those two types of cases, that's when we go by b'shishim, when it has to be nullified in between 160 parts.
So because 60 is kind of like a catch-all. In a case where we don't have another way of doing it, another action, but we prefer to taste. Presumably, we prefer to taste because we could have used 60 in all the cases, perhaps.
Right, and we would even prefer to do a kfela than shishim.
Right. It seems like shishim is really b'diavad because really, like we said, that's we're worried about taste. If you have taste there, then you have Isser there. Kind of like the idea of Tom Kicker. Look at the first Rashi there. Or I wonder if there's look at the first Rashi there.
V'amor Rabbanan b'shishim
Yeah.
Beperek Batra de Mesechet Avodah Zarah Paskinan Hilchata Bechol Isrin Shebetorah Ben Basar Ben Bechalav Ubein Shar Isrin Bashishim. So we paskined in Avodah Zarah that the law is that for all Torah prohibitions, whether it's with meat and milk or with other types of Isurim, that they can be nullified in 60 parts.
Right. Now, so what does it mean by all Isurim?
What?
Kind of strange. I mean, what?
Well,
What does it mean?
He's bringing up Basar B'chalav explicitly here because that's what we're talking about. But I guess there are other Torah food prohibitions. But we know that it can't be all Isurim because there are certain things that are not Batel Afilo Be'elef.
Right. Right.
So I guess it's saying all things that are potentially Batel.
Well, actually, what we're going to say is that all those other things that require 100 or require, certain things that require 100 or mashahu, they might be actually chumras. They might be derabanans. Might be that minat Torah 60 is works for everything. That might be.
Isn't it that minat Torah essentially rove works and even 60 is a chumrah?
Rove only,
from like the El Hanazir, that like that's a chiddush that we shouldn't have learned from, and even that's a chumrah on like Batel Barov.
No. We learn rove is when you have dry mixtures, or you're saying, or when there's no taste. Again, we have tam ki ikar. If you're tasting the object here, then it's shouting out, "I'm here, I'm here." It's not batel.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't remember which Gemara it's in, but I think in one of them they talk about like how could we even learn like shishim from El Hanazir because it's like a chiddush, and it's like, well, it's a chiddush l'chumra that like something would be mavatal the shishim because actually otherwise
it's very complicated. It's a very complicated Gemara there. We'll have to look at that Gemara. It's a very complicated Gemara. Exactly what it's doing. There's different opinions in the Rishonim what exactly that Gemara is saying. But it seems to be trying to say. I mean, there's different opinions in their Amoraim, even what the limud is over there, right? There's a machloket. But we're not learning that right now. But let's leave it and just say that that 60 is only a. You see that's a case of min b'mino. Min b'mino is batel barov. You're right. But we're talking about min b'eino mino. Then it's not. In other words, that's the el hanazir. The el.
Doesn't min b'mino more machmir than min b'she'eino mino generally?
That's a machloket also. Rabbi Yehuda, that's that Tosus that you learned. Rabbi Yehuda holds that min b'mino is never batel, but we paskin that min b'mino is batel b'shish is batel b'rov. The opposite. And as we paskin that is batel b'rov min b'mino.
No, we paskin as batel b'shishim, but batel b'rov d'oraita.
Right, batel b'rov d'oraita.
So wouldn't the same be the case? Like, why would that be more mekil than min b'she'eino mino d'oraita?
Well, we can be more mekil by min b'mino because there's no taste here. Right? If it's the same min, and min goes by taste, then how do you know? Tell me that I'm tasting.
Aren't we saying
wait a second. We're discussing now everything, but if I have min b'mino, and I have, let's say, kosher beef and non-kosher beef mixed together, so you're telling me I'm tasting the non-kosher beef? I'll tell you I'm tasting the kosher beef. Who wins out? Rove. We go by rove. If it's min, in other words. But when we have eino mino, as Rachel was pointing out, when we have eino mino, I can taste it. So you can't tell me it's batel.
But isn't that also, that's d'Rabbanan, isn't it? Like, isn't there this idea that like all of this d'oraita would be barov, and then even benotein tam is like a d'Rabbanan, like.
Well, tam ki ikar, whether tam.
Like, we know the reason Rabbi Yehuda thinks Damashu is because we still do care if there's anything there, even if you can't taste it. It's just that it means you know you can't taste it, which is why we have to have a shear as opposed to an attain tam. Not that it's more makil because you can't taste it, just that like we can't use taste in the same way.
Anyway, I don't want to discuss all the topics of the whole year now, but these are important topics. You're right. We're going to discuss it. We'll get into it in detail. But the final bottom line, the halacha, is that min be'eno mino, it requires 60 deraita. Min be'eno mino. Min be'mino, it goes by rov, midiraita. Midirabanan, if it's lach balach, you also need 60. That's the halacha l'maisa. As far as how we understand it, this goes together with the idea that tam ki ikar is d'oraita. So if tam ki ikar is d'oraita, then if we taste that flavor here, it's not batel. And it goes back to what I was saying. If the flavor is here, then the flavor is jumping up and saying, I'm here. You can't mevatel it. You can't say, well, there's rove against you. You can only do bittel when there actually is a bittel, when it actually is mevutal, when it's no longer relevant. It's only no longer relevant when you can't taste it, which only occurs when they're in min be'eno mino when there's 60. And in min be'mino, it occurs immediately.
Wait.
It occurs immediately in min be'mino because there's no difference in the flavor. Yavni, you want to say something?
You said it only occurs when it's 1 in 60, but I would challenge that like maybe the idea is it only occurs when you can't taste it, and then when we can't test that, then we have this principle that should be more conservative in theory.
Yes. So, wait a second. Is there a Rashi? Did you see a Rashi that says that 1 in 60 is a chumrah?
I don't recall.
I mean, isn't there like a sugya, like not even a Rashi, but like a bit in the Gemara where it says about the chumrah, which is why we can learn it from the Chiddush of El Hanazir.
Yeah, I know you. I don't want to talk about the Gemara. No,
That's next week.
I mean, that's
yeah.
Rashi that we just read basically says that it's safe, right? So that's why I meant by it's potentially a chumrah. Like it should be more conservative than actually being able to taste it because,
I think,
or maybe not, or maybe it's just a stand-in. But
no, there is a Rashi. I don't remember exactly where it is. There is a Rashi which says that actually you need to not taste it and have 60.
But that's Rashi as a posek.
Yeah, that's the chumrah of Rashi, where he says taste is not enough. You also need 60. But I agree with you, Yavni, that yes, in min b'she'eno mino, as long as you don't taste it, it's batel. And I was just saying 60 as a how do you say, a stand-in for tasting.
I want to add that we have the halachic principles coming up against each other. And we also have a narrative here in the Gemara itself about what strategy do you use in order to get certainty. And the last strategy is the strategy of Shishim, which is an overwhelming and almost absurd strategy. Because it's not rove, it's not that which is empirical, or tam, which is super empirical, as Nachum says, I'm here, which is super empirical, is when other things fail or you desire greater and greater certainty. You deal with Shishim. Now, even though Shishim has a Torah source, I'm still concentrating here on the narrative in which Shishim, in a sense, comes last. When you really need certainty, therefore, let's go with Shishim, which is, and we'll call it again, is an absurd certainty. But also, this is kind of a move in religious life, just to take it to contemporary times. No one, in old days had a digital watch. This is a cheaper watch. Had a digital watch and counted the seconds when the person was blowing the shofar to make sure the shvarim were of a certain number of seconds. But once you want to have certainty, or when you want to know when Shabbos is out, Shabbos, you look, what does the Jerusalem Post say? when it's Oy Shabbos and they figured it out one way or the other using whatever algorithms. But the truth of the matter is, and a early graduate of this program, Rabbi Gavson, he goes out every Motzei Shabbos and he looks to see, are there 3 stars? There's a move towards certainty, and certainty becomes absurd just by its nature, and it also becomes overwhelming. And I would just say sometimes it becomes extraordinarily boring. Sounds great to taste something or have somebody else taste something and see if the taste is there. That's riskier, that's more adventuresome. And I'm done with my drasha. But Nachum, continue it.
Well, first of all, does anyone else have anything more to say? Did I miss something? Did we not discuss something on what we've done so far? Okay, I think so. We've seen these 3 different approaches of Rava. What does Rava say about min b'mino? What does Rava say about min b'mino?
Rava says min b'mino b'shishim.
Right. He says min b'mino is b'shishim.
But he never rove in this sugya. There's no concept of rove. There's only ta'am and shishim.
Right. There's no concept. Exactly. It's true. There's also no concept of one other thing. What's that? One other possibility?
It's not Patel.
It never is Patel. Yeah.
That it's not Patel at all. That's also not here. In other words, Rava is saying, min b'mino is batal b'shishim. And on that, there's this Tosos that I asked you to look at. Do we want to take a break here for 5 minutes? Because it's the hour point. Maybe we'll take a few minutes break. We'll come back. We'll come back in a few minutes. We'll come back in like not more than 5 minutes. Remind me to start the recording when we come back. And I'm recording. So there's this Tosfot. Now, basically, Rashi on Daf Kuf Tet says that we pass it like Rabbi Yehuda, and that min b'mino is not batal. It's it's aser b'mashu, which means it's never batal, not batal. It's not batal b'shishi. And Rava here says it is batal b'shishi min b'mino. So Tosfos uses this Gemara here to jump on Rashi, to show, here is his opportunity to disagree with Rashi, because he's got a very nice source right here where Rava says it is batal b'shishim, and Rava is a later, Rava is a later Gemara, and we can pass it like it. So again, Tosfos argues on Rashi in a few places in Shas, but here's one very major place where he argues on him, and he basically says, look here, you see, it's batal b'shishim, even if it's min b'mino. Can anybody tell me any of the proofs for Rashi? So Tosfos, actually, this Tosfos is very interesting because it's almost like
which Tosfos is that?
I'm talking about Amar Rava. This very long Tosfos here. It's actually like a modern day tshuva of Rav Avadia Yosef, because it goes through source after source after source, showing how Rashi goes. Also, Rashi, he's quoting for the first 8 lines. He's quoting a long Rashi, and that Rashi is on Kuf Tet. And he's basically quoting the whole Rashi with Rashi's all of his arguments, and then he brings all of his own arguments. So let me just take you to 2 places that I want to look at in the Gemara that this Tosfos brings as his arguments. And just we'll look at them quickly. Go to Avodah Zarah. This is why I ask you if you have an avodah zarah. If you don't, you can just listen. But if you have an avodah zarah, go to avodah zarah Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph, 73 Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph, and there's a Mishnah there. And maybe Andre, you want to read us that Mishnah? If you have it. No? So, Joel, you want to read us that Mishnah?
Sure. All right. Yain nesech asur ve'oser bechol shehu. Do I need to translate, or can I just my good just reading this? Mishnah is pretty straightforward.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yain beyain umayim b'mayim bechol shehu. Yain b'mayim umayim beyain benoten tam. Zeh klal. This is it. Min b'mino b'mashu v'shelo b'mino benoten tam.
So what does that seem to tell you?
Seems to say pretty straightforward. If it's no, it's there's no beetle essentially.
Yeah, I mean Rashi's Rashi's a very good Rishon. He knows his Mishnahs. Min b'mino is not batel. Yayin b'yayin, mayim b'mayim. Tosfos is going to think about this and say this Mishnah is a little bit problematic. So on the surface, this Mishnah sounds very good for Rashi. Min b'mino is not batel. Can you tell me do you remember how Tosfos interprets this Mishnah? That's a hard one.
The yain nesech, right?
Yeah, he says, what do you mean yayin nesech?
That yain nesech and also tevel are oser bekol shehu, like no matter what.
Wait, who's talking?
But
Who's
that
talking?
everything else.
Lexi? Yeah.
Yeah. But that everything else means mino b'shishim.
Right. He's
But
saying
this is
right. When he says, even though it says at the end there, what did it say? Min b'mino b'mashu. It's a klal, but it's not a klal. It's only by yayin nesech. And he says it's yayin nesech mamish. It's not stam yayin. And what's his proof that stam yayin? Like if you just buy a bottle of non-kosher wine, it's not yayin nesech. It's stam yayin. It's just never was used for anything. This is actually used on a mizbeach. It was used for the purpose of avodah zarah. That's what it also means. It's mamish korban for avodah zarah, and that's why it's b'mashu. And what's his proof from the Mishnah? It's very simple proof.
Starts off by saying yayin nesech.
Yeah.
What?
It starts off by saying yayin nesech.
Yeah, but yayin nesech might mean yayin that is usher because we're worried of the gezerah of yayin nesech. What's his proof that this has actually been used? I mean, maybe it's not the best proof, but maybe I'm overstating his case. But his proof is because it says mayim b'mayim. Mapitom, there's no gezerah on mayim. Mapitom that mayim is usher. There's no rabbinic gezerah that maybe they're going to hashash, that they're going to use the water. You're allowed to buy water from any guy you want. We don't have a hashash that maybe he used it for avodah zarah. So when it says yayin b'yayin is us, mayim b'mayim, water in water is usher, it must mean water that was actually used as a water libation for avodah zarah. That could only be. That's the only case that it could be usher. And therefore, if that's the case of the water, it's also the case of the wine. So that's how Tosfos undermines Rashi.
Finish the sentence. It's also the case for wine that. Just finish the sentence. It's the case for water. Just say
it's the case for water that it could only be usher if it was actually used on the altar. So too, the Mishnah is talking about similar circumstances. The wine was also went through the same process that the water went through, which is being put on the altar. Comments?
Maybe it's just because it's 10 o'clock at night, but I'm when they say zaklal mi b'mino b'mashu v'shelo b'mino b'notin tam. So how do we understand if yayin nesech is not allowed in a mashu? Is notin tam referring to 1/60th? Meaning shelo b'mino, if yain nesech falls into plain water and I can't taste it,
I
but I
think they
so I know
say
it was a mashu.
I think you're right in being troubled by Tosfos's explanation. You're saying not all the pieces of the Mishnah maybe fit together in this way.
Yeah.
Let's go. I think you're kind of right, and let's look at it a little bit again. Let me look at it again. Yain nesech asur va'oser b'kol shehu. Okay, that makes sense. Yayin b'yayin, mayim b'mayim b'kol shehu. That's what we meant. When we said it's oser b'kol shehu, we meant only when it's min b'mina. Yayin b'mayim, mayim b'yayin b'noten tam. Now here, we're wondering, I think is what your question is, why is it noten tam? If this is aser, has been on the altar, it should be never batel.
Right.
So what can we answer? I mean, I don't know much about the Isser of Avodah Zarah, actually. Like what exactly is the parameter? Maybe,
You can
Why? What?
if
Why
you
do we have
don't
the?
taste it, if you don't taste, maybe the Isser is hana'ah. And if you don't taste it, you're not getting any hana'ah from it, so it's batel. But when you have it together with its own species, its own type, then you're getting just more. It's not batel because it's just adding to it. It's just contributing more to that thing. I mean, you can say something like that.
I would put it almost in the language of if you can make a sure claim that you're not tasting the ayin nesef anymore, which you can do if it's not been mino, then you can say I don't have any.
I know, but I hear what you're saying. So I can't make a sure claim when it's min b'mino, but I could say the exact same argument by pork. Not by pork, by non-kosher beef in kosher beef. I have no sure claim, so why should be aser b'mashu?
Because the isur is not nearly as machmir as.
In other words, when we have two different flavors, then that becomes the bittul of the two different flavors becomes the overriding rule. But when we have the same flavor, then we go like rove in most cases. But with Avodah Zarah, we go by mashu. That's what we have to say, and that's what the Mishnah is telling us.
But why are you shaking your head? In
Me?
other words, they were
I'm
very
agreeing.
master of Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, no, I'm not shaking my head.
Considered Avodah Zarah, right? I mean,
I just had a friend return from India, and he said that you can tell if you're talking to an Indian or a Sri Lankan. The Sri Lankan, they nod means yes, and they shake their head as no. And the Indians, he said, they go like this. They like this. Yeah, this means yes, and this means no, and depends on how they look at you. So when I was going like that, I was just saying, yeah, I can work it out. I can work it out in a way that makes sense. Yeah, I think I was troubled by it, but I can work it out. It works out. So there you go. So that's Tosfos' pshat in the Mishnah, and he says it's just by yayin nesech. Now we have another Gemara in Avodah Zarah, which is Samech Vav.
And then the way Tosfos, the significance of the zeh klal would be like it's only by like anything else that had been used for Avodah Zarah specifically, but not issues of kashrut.
We're probably also to Tevel according to Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish within the Gemara itself.
Wait, let me just answer Yavi. Wait, I think that Lexi's going to give a better answer than me, but let me just wait. Who's talking? Lexi, let me just give a different answer, and then you can jump in. I'll try this one on for size Yavi. The first part of the first Gemara. This is really a difficult reading that I'm going to say, but the first statement of the Mishnah was actually being corrected. The first statement of the Mishnah said, "Yayin nesech oser asur va'oser b'kol shehu," and that seemed to be an 100% true statement. And then we turned out that it's not 100% true. It's only in min b'mina, and that's why we gave this new klal at the bottom of the Mishnah, which gives the real klal. Zeh klal. This is the real klal. Min b'mino b'mashu v'shelo b'mino b'noten tam. In other words, it's coming to correct the incorrect original, the impression you might get from the first statement, which is not 100% true. That's the way I'm reading it. I think that fits.
Well, there's
So
an unwritten question in there. Ematai. When is it? In the following case, right? It's.
Yeah, exactly. So we can chasure mechasre. We can add a little bit to the Mishnah and it'll work out. But the zeh klal at the end seems to be the real better statement of the klal. But Lexi, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, later in the Gemara, they pick apart, like, Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish have different interpretations of, like, the zeh klal. And, like, the kasha that we have...
Right, we don't hear, your internet connection is not good. Your connection is not good.
Is like a fair one,
Right.
because usually...
Wait, I muted.
Sorry, let me know.
All right, we got to go on.
Usually the best. Yeah.
Lexi, your connection is not good, so we're going to go on. But I think you have a good bakiyas there. But let's leave it with my reading for now. Now let's go to Samach Vav. I mean, yeah, I was just giving a reading of how Tosfos might read it. Now Samach Vav is on Amud Aleph and at the bottom of the page. And again, we have a kind of proof for Rashi. Hala Lagoy Chamra. You see that, the 2 lines from the bottom on Samach Vav. Give me some thumbs up when you get it.
Still in Avodah Zarah?
Yeah, still in Avodah Zarah. Samach Vav Amud Aleph. I just picked 2 important proofs that he brings, Tosfos brings. Instead of reading all the Tosfos, I'm just going to his actual, how do you say, his basis. So here, Joel, maybe you want to read for me again?
Sorry, where am I starting from?
The 2 lines from the bottom on Samach Vav Amud Aleph. 2 lines from the bottom. Chala Lagoy Chamra.
Oh, yeah. Chala Lagoy Chamra. Divrei Kol benoten tam. All right, so vinegar and wine, everyone agrees that it's batel benoten tam. All right, or the limit is noten tam. Chamra Lagoy Chala, but wine into vinegar, Abaye Amar b'mashu, Rava Amar benoten tam. But then we have a debate between Abaye and Rava about whether it's noten tam or mashu. Abaye Amar b'mashu, so we get explanation. Reche Chala v'tama chamra. V'tama chamra chala v'havile min b'mino. V'chol min b'mino b'mashu. Rav Amar b'noten tam. Reche chala v'tama chamra. Chamra v'havile min she'eno mino. V'chol min she'eno mino b'noten tam.
So wait a second. Ben kach u'ben kach, what do Rabba and Abaye agree on?
They agree that min b'mino is b'mashu. So
right, they agree. They just say, is this a case of min b'mino or not a case of min b'mino? Yeah. But they both agree that if it's a case of min b'mino, then it's b'mashu. Oh, Rashi's right. Another proof for Rashi. Of course, our Gemara that we just saw, Rava said that the opposite. Rava contradicts himself. Right? In our Gemara, Rava said that b'shishim, that b'min b'mino, you're batal b'shishim. And here he's saying b'mashu. He seems to be agreeing. So how does, and here, can you say this is a case of Yayin Nesek that was actually served as a Avodah Zarah? Was this a Avodah Zarah wine? So we have other possible things that we could be saying. One possibility is that they're only talking according to the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. That's one answer that he gives, that Tosfos gives. And fine. I'm just pointing, Tosfos learns that, I think he learns like that it's just according to the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. So, and Rabbi Yehuda, we don't pass him like. In other words, and when Rava and Abaye are talking about it, they're not saying their own opinions, they're just saying their opinion, how they understand Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so we just saw those two Gemaras, and we saw Tosfot, sort of. Tosfos' main point, basically, in the end, is to paskin against Rashi that, and this is how we're going to paskin halacha, that min b'mino is batel in shishim, let's say derabanan. Min b'mino is batel
Where does he
b'roch.
say it in the Tosfot? Can you lead us there? Be helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the first word on the line, about 6 lines down, is Rabbeinu Tam, the Reish Vav Reish Taf, about 6-7 lines down. On Sadi Vav, on back to the Gemara in Hullin, Sadi Zayin. It says Rabbeinu Tam. It's about 6 lines down, maybe 7, depending on how you count. Rabbeinu Tam Omer de kol ze eino raya de ein halacha lo ka Rabbi Yehuda velo ka Rabbi velo ka Rav Shmuel de halacha ka Rabbi Yochanan legabe Rav keda amar bereish beitza legabe Shmuel keda amar b'mish hotziuhu Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi nami islay lekaman b'shmaita de min b'mino nami batel. Min b'mino can also be batel. The yalif mizroa b'sheila, and that was what Lexi was telling us about. That we learn it from zroa b'sheila, which is this arm that is cooked and is given to the kohen. The have min b'mino, that's a case of min b'mino. V'Rebbe Yehoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi bar Samchahu, you can rely on. The halacha kamotu b'kol makom, and always the halacha is like Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. I think the Rambam says that also. I think there's a Rambam that says that. So there you go. So he's just saying it is bata, and we learn it from Zorah B'Shela. So if we want to get into the real topic of min b'mino basha, we have to learn that sugya. But we're not going to do that tonight. That's all we really need from this Tosfot. The rest is just how he's going through all the sources and showing. Wait, I think I have one more line. Wait, let me see if I have one more line I want to tell you. Yeah, there's this whole discussion. He has a whole discussion about Pesach. Why are we machmir on Pesach? So if you look down, about 2/3 of the way, it says the first word on the line is letaime. There's another little interesting line here. I don't know if you see it, about 30 lines down. I don't know, 10 lines, about 2/3 of the way down in the Tosfot. First word on the line is v'letaime. You got it? Give me a thumbs up if you found it. Yeah, okay. So it says like this, v'chule. Rava pasik Rav v'lo b'taime. He paskins like Rav, but not for his same reason. For time of the Rav, we're talking about the reason on Pesach that we're going to be asur b'mashru. The time of the Rav, mishum de savar ba'alma, the min b'mino b'mashru. He holds that in general, min b'mino is asur b'mashru. V'gazrin on Pesach, shelo b'mino, and Pesach is going to be even more chumrah, even lo b'mino. If you have chametz, which is not the same min as your chicken, you have a little bit of chametz in your chicken soup, it's going to be usher because even though it's like as though it were min b'mino in the normal case. Gazrin on Pesach shelo b'mino atu mino, just like normal case of mino. Aval Rava afal gav de bekol isurin have benotin tam. Rava says like this: even though in normal isurim it would actually be noten tam, which would be 60, not b'mashu. Afilu b'mino, even b'mino. This is our friend Rava here. Machmir on Pesach is machmir le'asor Pesach b'mashu afilu shelo b'mino. He is aser a mashu in a mino and afilu shelo b'mino, even if it's not b'mino. In other words, he does a double chumrah. Not only, in other words, he creates the Isser B'Mashu is across the board new for Pesach, whereas for Rav, there is this concept out there in the world of Lasser B'Mashu by Minnow, and all he's doing is extending that Minnow to Eino Minnow on Pesach. But Rava is extending that is creating that concept sort of both for min and min Minnow and min Eino Minnow on Pesach. All right, that's just how he's explaining a certain Gemara over there. Just interesting discussion about min b'mino. All right, let's go back to our Gemara, and we'll skip a little bit. So turn the page, and let's go to Tzadi Zion Amud Bet. And wait, I'll tell you where to skip to. Just a second. Yeah, start. Maybe somebody wants to read Mimi, maybe, or I don't see it there.
Yeah, I'm not very useful at 10:30, but I can try. Where do you want me to start from?
From Amar Rabbi Chanina on Amud Bet there. It's the first one on the line is de Roteach. It's about 12 lines down.
Okay. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Kshen Misha'arin Berotev, Uvekipa, Uvechatichot, Uvektera. Ikat Amar Vektera Tzma.
Wait, so let's stop for a second. Explain the first part.
Okay, so Rabbi Chanina says that when you estimate or when you measure,
So look, yeah, exactly. Look at the Rashi on Kishen Misharin.
Kishen Misharin. Ha'isur b'shishim. ומשערינן אותו שיהיה בו אחד מ-60 ברוטב וכיפה וחתיכות ובקטרה. So like meaning you include all the parts when you measure
right.
1 out of 60. So like all those parts are included in the whole.
In other words, in order to create 60 against the Isser that fell into your pot, you have some Isser that fell in. You need to count also the pot and also the water and also the kippah. Rashi says is some kind of like film that bubbles up and crusts over on the edges, maybe some kind of like film.
Which makes it more lenient.
Yeah, in other words, include everything. That's the basic idea.
Yeah. Ikad amre b'ktera atzma, v'ikad amre b'may div la'akdera.
Right. You know, we sort of glossed over this, but it says you measure against the kedera. What does that mean? Kedera can mean two things. It can mean a pot with food in it. In this case, it doesn't, because we're talking already about the food in it. So kedera here must mean the actual metal walls of the pot. Why would we count that? Look at Tosfot. The first Tosfot. Why would we count the metal of the wall? Yeah.
אם שיעור עובי הקטרה כ-50 זיתים ונתן במים כשיעור 10 זיתים ובישל באותן המים כזית חלב, האחליף פטר אותו כזית חלב ומים. הפשיטה שיש במים טעם חלב, ונראה לפרש.
Stop there.
Okay.
One of my rabbis many years ago told me, just read Tosfos' questions. His answer, just read the question. The question is a good question. Answer, all right, if you understand his question, the answer, you can take it or leave it, but understand the question. Question, and what's the question here? What kind, what's the question? Tell us the question.
Does the thickness of the pot count toward the whole? Or how?
In other words, the Gemara, he's saying, how could you possibly say that the metal counts? I can take a metal pot, Tosfos says, and fill it with 10 ounces of water and put in 1 ounce of milk, and the water is going to taste like milk. And it doesn't matter that there are 50 ounces of metal all around the pot, in the wall. Doesn't do anything. What kind of an attack is this? This is a very strange attack, because we're taught in yeshiva not to do this. This is an empirical attack. He's saying, empirically, I know that this is not true. I mean, right? He's saying, it can't be, it's not true. So therefore, the Gemara must mean something else.
Okay, should we keep going?
Yeah, let's just leave it. I'm more interested in Rashi's answer. It's more interesting, I think. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll see Tosfos' answer, but keep going in the Gemara.
Wait, not in Tosfos.
Oh, not into, no, as you like. You can do the Tosfos. Finish the Tosfos if you want to see the Tosfos.
Okay.
It's almost better not to see the answer, but let's see the answer.
הפשיטה שיש במים טעם חלב. ונראה לפרש. דהכה מיירה כגון דלייטה ליסורה בעיני, דנבלה בה בקטרה כזית חלב.
Right.
So they're talking about a case in which the pot absorbed the milk.
Yeah, like yesterday, not yesterday, an hour ago, 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, the pot absorbed a kazayit of milk. Yeah.
Meaning it was talking about the past tense. Okay.
2 hours before I even started cooking, it absorbed a kazayit of milk. V'achar kach hazar bishel heter. By heter, he means like beef. The mishar, right? I think he means beef.
Why is heter beef?
Well, because there's milk in the wall. What would we care about?
Unless it's chalev, then.
All right, Caleb. So fine. I take, who is that? Joel? Yeah. Joel. I think Joel is very humbly correcting me, because I had Caleb. Yeah, that makes more sense. So fine. It absorbed. It doesn't really matter. Either way, it absorbed kazayit of Caleb, and now it's you're cooking in its heter.
I see. Okay. דמשארים בקדרה עצמה לבטל האיסור שנבנה בה. So that's when you include the kdera, the pot itself, to be mevatel the iser, right? Is when you had cooked the chaylev.
Well, what does it matter? But still, what ago. Metal all of a sudden is powerful now? What's he saying? Why is metal not? He just said empirically it's not powerful, and now he has a case where it absorbed flavor and it is empirically powerful. What happened?
Wait, I think he's saying that the I think it's kind of like a heter for notain tam, right? It's like you want to say that this metal pot absorbed the tam of a drop of milk, fine, but we're not going to say that that's going to trace up your. Oh, sorry, we're not talking about milk.
Well, it could be milk. It doesn't really matter. It could be milk and meat.
Okay.
But Yavni wants to say something. Yavni, go ahead.
Is the Tosfos science that the amount that the pot releases the flavor is according to the percentage of absorption as opposed to the quantity of absorption? Like if it's a bigger pot, then it will
Oh, that's a very interesting idea. That's a nice explanation. That's like that's like a more advanced explanation than mine. I'll give you mine, and then yours is better, I think. Mine is very mathematical. That metal is mevatel tam that's balua. but it's not mevatel tam, that's ba'ain. That metal, it's like, balua is already a very weakened thing. Maybe, who knows, maybe Tosfos is skeptical about the existence of balua in the first place. But balua is very lightweight material, and therefore the metal of the pot also can contribute to mevateling it. But what he was bothered by was ba'ain. But you're sort of answering why. You're saying a different answer, but you're saying it's a little bit better. You're saying that maybe something only like only a certain percent. What you're saying is that the ratio of the isser that was in the wall will come out according to the ratio of the wall to the isser. Yeah, something like that. Either way, my explanation is whatever. Either way, you can take whatever you want. But simply put, my explanation is the most minimal explanation. The minimal is an observation. I'm just observing. Tosfos seems to be saying that when it's ba'ain, the walls don't count, and when it's balua, the walls do count. That is safe. That is the safest statement I can make without giving any more rationality to it. And I think the rationality might be that he's just a little bit skeptical about this whole balua question. Let's look at Rashi. Rashi, I think, has a different answer. Is there a Rashi? There is a Rashi, B'mai de Balua. Here. So again, that's Tosfos' explanation of when we do against the pot itself. The pot itself means not the pot itself, but yeah, it does mean the pot itself. It means the pot itself, but only in a case where we're battling balua. It means the pot itself. What does Tosfos say about Masha? Then the next
Anyway,
part,
because in that case, you've moved the scene of action. The scene of action has gone from inside the pot to
in the walls.
In the pot.
Yeah.
The pot itself. No, so that's where the battle is taking place. So it makes sense. Now you're saying empirically, but it makes sense in terms of the logic.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at Rashi. Let's look at Rashi. Who can I pick on? Anyone want to be picked on?
Which Rashi?
Oh,
which
you want? I mean, the Rashi b'mai de bala kedera. This is the alternative. This is the alternative. In other words, do we measure against the pot itself or what the pot absorbed? By the way, Tosfos is explaining that pot itself means the metal versus what's balua in it. And then what would Tosfos say, b'mai de bala kedera, would mean, only like the other, before I cooked the chalev, I maybe cooked some broccoli, and the broccoli flavor in the wall, does that help me? Masha balua b'kedera. Does the broccoli flavor in the wall also help? That's the other, in other words, Masha balua b'kedera. Only that, and not the metal. Only the broccoli flavor in the wall from 4 hours ago, not from 2 hours ago, which was the chalev. But 4 hours ago, I cooked some broccoli. Maybe that's all we can use. We can't use all the wall. That's the way Tosfos would say. What does Rashi say? So maybe Noam, you want to read? I see sunlight over there, so it's not 10 o'clock at night by you. But you don't hear you. We don't hear you.
You're muted.
You don't have a microphone. All the daylight is not going to help you if you don't have a microphone. I muted you? No. Joel, how about Joel? How about Yavni? Yavni didn't read. Yavni.
Sure. במאי דבלה קדרה, אם ראינוהו כשנפל שם קודם, שנתמעט וענן משרינן אותו לאחר שנתבשל, לכמות שנפל שם. So we have some sense that something else like was in the pot and got swallowed up by the walls of the pot. Because we
Wait.
saw
Let
it
me
there.
paint the case. It's a little bit weird case. He says like this. We have a pot that has like, let's say, chicken soup cooking away. We got our big pot of chicken soup. And now a piece of pork, our neighbor came in to taste our chicken soup, I don't know why, and he was carrying a piece of pork and it just fell off of his shirt onto our soup. So, v'ra'inhu, and I think it means like we the judges, we the posek, saw it fall. Kishanafal sham, kodem shenitma'ed. We saw it at its original size, and then it cooked in the pot, and it was reduced to a smaller size, let's say half as big. So go ahead from Anna. And so we're coming to measure it now after it already shrunk. The guy brings us the pot after it already shrunk. So take it from there. Anan Misharin. We don't hear you. Yavni.
Sorry, I was muted. Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
לכמות שנפל שם, ואין בהיתר 60 בו, עומדים כמה, sorry.
What does it mean? Wait, what does it mean? What does it mean? Va'anu misharin oto la'acher shenitbashel lekamut shenafal sham. What does that mean? Lekamut shenafal sham.
I think it's like that you're not measuring it according to how much the 60 that like how much is in the pot after it's cooked and reduced. Rather, you're measuring it according to how much was in there when it dropped in. But I might have that backward.
No, you're right, but I was thinking about the piece itself. I think it means maybe it's the piece or maybe it's the soup, but I think it's the piece. We measure it. We evaluate this piece. We know that 100 grams fell in, even though now it's 50. So when we're going to look for our 60, we're going to have to mivatel the full 100 grams. Why? Because we know that 100 grams fell in originally. In other words, because we saw it, re'inhu. In other words, we can't ignore what our eyes have seen. We saw it fall in at 100, and now we take it out at 50. We're going to measure it lekamut shahaita, according to its size that it originally was.
According to the size of the piece of isur that fell in, or according to the size of the, oh, interesting, okay.
That's what I think, it's the isur. I think we're still talking about the isur, not about the pot. You're right, okay. The pot also maybe went down, but we're talking about, wait, Elizabeth has a question.
I'm just wondering, because we said re'inhu, does that mean that if we didn't see it, maybe we wouldn't necessarily be measuring based on the original size?
Yeah, that's what I'm pushing, I'm emphasizing over and over again, that word re'inhu. Yeah, I'm emphasizing the re'inhu. If we wouldn't have seen it, the law might be different. And in fact, that's what Rashi's going to say at the end. Yeah, re'inhu makes us up. The reality requires us to relate to the reality. We know that 100 grams fell in, so we treat it as if it's 100 grams, even though now it's small. Ve'ein.
Ve'ein beheter 60 bo omdim.
Skip the word bo.
Oh, okay.
The note says to remove the word bo.
Okay. ואין בהיתר 60 עומדים כמה בלעה קדרה.
So wait a second, we got a problem. Wait, stop from ein beheter shishim. Since we know that it was 100, we put ourselves into trouble because now we only have 50 against that 100. If we could measure it against its current size, we would have no problem. But we know it's really 100. So now we're looking for ways to matter this pot. So omdim
כמה בלעה קדרה מן ההיתר לפי שכשנפל שם היה היתר הרבה ונתמעט בבליעת הקדרה, אבל בקדרה עצמה לא משערינן. Oh, so, right, sorry, that last part is like an extra point. It says so that the way we find the heter, we say that like the soup also went down, and how did it go down? It got swallowed up into the walls of the pot, but it's still there adding to the flavor, even though it's in the walls of the pot.
Right.
and then
In other words, we can give ourselves, if the pot used to be this high and now it's this high, well, all that extra piece is in the walls, so we can bring it back to life, and it can help us mevatel the 100.
Right. And then the last point where he says "B'kdera atzma lo mesharinan," he's just taking the second opinion of the Gemara here and saying that the first opinion, he's rejecting it. When it says,
yeah, well, I don't know.
I think he's saying the second opinion rejects the Kedera Atzma, not that Rashi does.
Right.
Right. I mean, anyway, right.
Okay.
Or not. I'm not sure. Or Rashi is saying, but don't think that when the Gemara said, maybe I take your correction. I take your comment. Never mind. I accept what you said. So in other words, you can almost ignore that. You can almost ignore those words. Aval b'kedera atzma lo misharinan. That's just referring to the Gemara. It's not really relevant. So go on from there. So now he's Rashi the Posek. Now Rashi was the Mefarish. Now he's putting on the hat of the Posek. All right, I keep interrupting you. Since it's an Issa D'Oraita, we're going to be Machmir, which means we're not going to measure against the whole Kedera, just against the Balua. But only in it. Wait a second. But look what Rashi did. I mean, just to stop before we go any further, because I didn't emphasize this, and really we need to emphasize this, that Rashi did not take a simple shot. Rashi is saying the only time that we're going to use the balua in the wall is when we knew what it was before and it went down, and then we know that the soup also went down, and then we can use the balua in the wall.
Right.
I mean, but it's not a simple case. It's not like, what about just like a simple case? Like I cooked some, I cooked some broccoli in the pot, and now I came along and cooked some chaylev in the pot, Tos's case. Now I want to use the broccoli to help me mevatel the isser. No, that's for sure not. In other words, it's only in this case where we're reduced, and we're going to look for ways to give us some extra stuff, extra material to use as bittul, then we'll do that. So here again, we're seeing a Tosfos Rashi Machloket. Can the balua in the wall help us? Rashi says, first of all, the pot itself for sure not going to help us, because it's a d'oraita. We're not going to use the pot. Only the balua can help us. And according to Rashi, even the balua only helps us in a weird case. According to Tosfos, the balua can help us pretty much in any case. Sounds to me.
Yeah. Or at least he doesn't comment on it in that one.
Right. I mean, he doesn't feel the need to make all this ukimta. He doesn't right. Do this.
Yeah.
Right. So go on. So the Rashi has the posek. He's saying it's a chumrah. It's the rice, so it will be the chumrah. V'lo masharim b'kedera.
Right.
V'lo masharim b'kedera atzma says the correction.
לא משארים בגדרה עצמו, ובעיקר הדבר כמות שהווה בה לפנינו, ומשארין לי ולא משארין במאי דבלה קדרה מן ההיתר, לפי שאף מן האיסור נבלע ונתמעט מכמות שהיה. וכדאמרינן לקמן עטו דהיתרה בלה the isura lo bala.
Right. My correction here is to remove that vav, the kedamrinan. It should be just kedamrinan.
But you also need to have a rhetorical question there at the end.
Wait, but yeah, it's a rhetorical question.
So
wait. Let Yavni. Right. Yeah. So Yavni, explain what is he saying?
Right. Okay, good. So he says that, but the essence is that it should be also at the beginning. Wait, how can I explain this? that like when it fell in, it should have been echad v'shishim because you can't.
No, you're getting too complicated. You're getting too complicated.
Okay.
I'll translate this to two words for
the
you.
essence, the point is that like you shouldn't say.
No, the Ikar
like, you
Davar
shouldn't say,
means.
oh,
Wait, stop a second. Yeah. Ikar Davar means this is how we paskin actually. The Ikar Davar, the real way we paskin in normal cases is like this. And now you can continue.
The main thing is that we count the amount that was that's in the soup pot, and we don't go chasing after the stuff that's swallowed. The only reason why you might be able to use that is because how would you even measure it? The way you might be able to use that is if you know that the isur got swallowed, then you can also say, oh, the isur got swallowed, but also the heter got swallowed, and therefore it's the same ratio.
Wait. Let me give you my interpretation of the Rashi. Yeah. My interpretation is like this. He's saying like this. The real way we paskin is like this. However it comes in front of us, that's how we measure. We don't retroactively, we don't worry about what it was when it fell in. We don't worry about how much balua is in the wall. We just look at what is in front of us. We are the poskim. The man or woman of the house brought in the pot of soup. We look at it. He says, here's the piece of pork. I don't say, oh, but this pork used to be much bigger when you first fell in. And I don't say, oh, the soup must have been higher before. We just look at what came in front of our eyes, and we measure those ratios. And we don't start retroactively dissecting what a series of events must have happened in order to get us here. We just say, what do we have here? And we don't care about what is in the walls, what it used to be. We don't give ourselves a heter and say, really the pot used to be taller, it used to have more water in it. And we also don't give ourselves a problem of saying that the meat used to be bigger. Because also the isser, where did it go? It went into the wall. So the proportions remain constant. And they both got smaller in the same ratio. Like we say, on Sarichet, Atu de Hetera Bala, the Isser Lo Bala. In other words, if the wall absorbed Heter, it also absorbed Isser, it certainly also absorbed Isser. In other words, so too here we can say, if it absorbed Isser, it absorbed Heter. In other words, whatever ratios went in, they went in. It's as though we poured off half of the soup. So we look at it as it is in front of us, and we don't do this. So it comes out that Rashi puts the Gemara in a strange case where he even says we don't even do that anyway. It seems like he's really trying to run away from the idea of adding the balua into the equation. It seems to me that he's trying to run away from that. Noam, you want to say something?
It just seems strange that he could have picked one of the two opinions as the machmer. Instead, he throws out both opinions. He's like, there's nothing in the pot counts for anything. We're done with that because there's a dispute over which way we count it. It's like you could have chosen a machmir version of
Well, he seems to come with the preconceived notion that for sure we don't count the balua in the pot.
Yeah.
So the only time we would is this weird case, and that case, of course, we don't really like that case anyway. That's not the way we usually work. Tosfos seems to say, well, I mean, if we go back and look at the Tosfos, let's look at the Tosfos just in the last minutes that we have. Let's look at those again, just to remind ourselves if there's a difference. Benira lefaresh, dahachamayri kagon deleta leisura ba'ain. There's no isur ba'ain. So Tosfos also seems to be saying that we can't use balua against isur ba'ain. So Tosfos is also doesn't like the idea of using the pot to help us, right? He's saying it only helps when we're only trying to mavatel isur that was in the walls. Then the walls could go against the walls, like Rabbi Landis says. He's put the battle has gone into the wall. So it seems like both of them, it seems like you can't, I don't think, just from those three words, I don't think you can get anybody to say here that you can use the balua really to mevatel actual mamashut. Yeah, comments, reactions.
Makes sense to me. It seems very impractical to try to calculate how much is like as a 60 times the amount that fell in.
No, but it means that the metal of the pot, it means it's like not in the equation, the whole pot. Except it can cause us trouble. Except it can cause us trouble. We know that if there's Isser in the walls, then the balua will certainly cause us trouble. It's only that it can't help us.
Right, because we're trying to be machmir in every case. But it is totally reasonable to say that the pot doesn't count because you would then never have to rely on any true batel b'shishim or anything else. The pot is always going to have such a significant amount.
In other words, it'll be good for people will just start buying pots with very thick walls, and they'll always have a bittel. That's what Tosfos' problem was, right? Rabbi Landis.
So what's the mindset that we've come to? What was the Havamina mindset in terms of how we look in order? What are the criteria for paskening? Mindset. What's the psychology of this?
Well,
and what's the conclusion? What's the concluding mindset?
Well, I think that both Tosfos and Rashi, but especially Rashi, are troubled by the idea of, like I said, trying to figure out what brought us here, what events transpired to get a certain case. When we look at it, when we want to paskin, we want to create a certain ratio, determine if there is the proper ratio, we really want to look at what we have in front of us.
So the word is lefanenu.
Right. It's much more practical. As a posek, it's like I'm learning a page of Gemara. Don't bother me with some other Gemara that's far away. The guy came here with, this is who he is in front of me, standing in front of me are two litigants. I just want to know about these two guys. Don't give me whole long, about their parents and who they came from. Just give me what's in front of me, the things that I can dissect in front of me. It makes sense, I think. It's practical.
Also, could you distinguish in the conclusion or in the Havamina between the walls of the pot and what's bolua in the wall of the pot? In the Havamina. When they say counting the walls of the pot, what do they mean by counting the walls? Are they about counting the bolua that's in the pot, or are they talking about the wall mamish?
Well, actually, now that you brought that up, and actually, tell me, I'll put this in front of the group. It seems to me that according to Rashi, the case of not counting the wall, that was Rashi and Tosfos are actually talking about two different cases. I realize I made a little bit of a mistake here. I think that Rashi he's describing the case of balua when we count the Maidabala HaKadera, and that on that case he's saying, well, when we count this balua, it's only in this weird case, and we don't even count the wall. Tosfos seems to assume, I take it back, a lot of things that I said actually now. Tosfos seems to assume that in the balua case, no problem, we count the balua. But when but Tosfos' Dibra Matzil is the Kedera Atzma. He's only bothered by those who hold that you actually count the walls. And on those opinions, he's coming to defend them and saying the only way I can imagine it is if it's balua against balua. But the opinion that says only the balua we count, maybe Tosfos has no problem with using that. Unless he's never talking about that case. That case maybe is just as we would normally understand it.
Right there, actually.
So in the end,
we do have the balua. I'm bringing back the balua. Thank you, Rabbi. I'm bringing back the balua. The balua Tosfos seems to say the balua would help us. Because if we paskin like Masha Balua b'Kedera, he was only explaining the case where the Kedera Atzma. Rashi understands Kedera Atzma k'mashmo. Kedera Atzma means counting the actual metal. And he does not really bother to explain that because anyway, we're not going to paskin like that. In other words, Rashi is not bothered by explaining that case because he's throwing it out anyway.
And why do we throw it out?
Because it would be two makers.
chumrah.
Rashi just says because it's an issue to write, and it would be two makers. In other words, we're going to be machmir because we have a machloket. We go like the chumrah.
Because no matter how thin the wall is, it's going to add so much.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll make our rule our behavior a little bit more suspectable. So more doubtful. Yeah, okay, very interesting. Very interesting. Tosfos, another Tosfos machloket with Rashi, whether you count the balua. Tosfos saying you can count the balua. Rashi saying basically you can't count the balua. Seems to me now.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stop here for tonight. We didn't finish all the Gemara, but I trust that you guys either have seen it or will see it. Thank you, guys.
I'll send out next week, but next week, what's the time on the list? We have
the next daf, the next two amudim.
The next two amudim. There's a big. It's basically almost an amud. The first amud it begins on the bottom of Sadi. I have to see it in front of me. I'm sorry. It begins on the bottom of Sadi Zion.
Yeah, on
well,
Sadi Zion.
Middle of the page. Omar Rava. No, you did it already. On Sadi. Sorry again.
Well, schedule. Yeah. What?
Well, let's just say Sadi Chet.
The original schedule was Sadi Chet, Amud Aleph, and Amud Bet, but you can
Right.
start
No,
in the
that's
middle.
what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Sadi Chet, Amud Aleph. At the bottom. I'm Rabbi Chia Barab. I'll send it to you, but it's 4 lines from the bottom. Sadi Chet Amud Aleph, and to Sadi Chet Amud Bet, on the full page at Sadi Chet Amud Bet.
But I recommend that everybody read the whole Gemara from where we stopped today through the beginning, even though Shir may not cover that, just to keep abreast of the whole subject matter.
Okay.
If you have time.
Okay, Thank you.
Shkoyach.
Thank
Laila
you.
Tov.
Thank you.